Hello everybody, it's Starrapter here, and welcome to This Week in Star Wars Canon, where every week I try my hardest to keep you guys all up to speed on the comics, the novels, the TV series, the video games, and anything else story-wise that relates to Star Wars. So this week it's going to be a very long episode. We have 5 comics to talk about. We have 7 episodes of the web series Forces of Destiny to get through, so buckle up because it's gonna be a ride. So getting into Forces of Destiny, the first episode I want to talk about is Monster Misunderstanding. So this one takes back in the prequels. We have Padme on Naboo, and there's this big creature that you've seen in The Phantom Menace when they were underwater with the speeder and the submarine thing, and basically they find out that there's these poachers that have this creature's baby, and that's why this creature is attacking this building, because that's where the creature is held. So yeah, another episode is called A Disarming Lesson, and this is between Ahsoka and Ezra, so obviously it's in about that season 2 range, and we have basically Ahsoka just teaching Ezra that, you know, his lightsaber isn't the only form of defense. So she pretty much teaches him this lesson to use agility, to use dodges, and I thought it was a pretty cool episode, some really cool choreography for sure. The next one is called Perilous Pursuit, and this is pretty much a deleted scene taken out of The Force Awakens, where we have Finn and Rey on the Starkiller base, and they're on this speeder going from one hub to another, and we see Rey's wearing Finn's jacket, which is pretty cool, which is actually really Poe's jacket. And I thought this was interesting because it's like, okay, Finn, you know, he can't drive for crap, but then we have Rey, and she can't even hit any of the snowtroopers that are pursuing them. So they kind of just switch places, and they find out that, hey, that's the best thing that could work for us. So I thought that was kind of interesting, especially for Rey. I mean, she's kind of force sensitive, so why is she missing? But anyway, the next thing I want to talk about is called Traps and Tribulations. And this is with Luke Skywalker and Leia. The aftermath of the Battle of Endor. The next morning, they are doing like the cleanup, where there's still some stormtroopers around, there's still some TIE fighters around, and they have to deal with this big monster, and it's called a Gorax. And if you guys are fans of Caravan of Courage and there's other Ewok adventure movies, as I was as a kid, you see this big giant creature, and it's pretty interesting because it actually lends some logical credit to why the Ewoks even have those traps already set for the Empire. Like, wait, did they just build those overnight? No, those are actually meant for this big Gorax creatures, like the big little pendulum logs that come through. That's really meant for them. We have Mark Hamill, again, lending his voice to a younger self, so it's kind of interesting hearing him that way. And we have, you know, I'm not sure who's the voice actor for Leia, but I think she does a pretty great job. And you do actually see Leia uses Luke's lightsaber to try to get the trap activated, so that was cool seeing Leia use a lightsaber. So yeah, we're seeing that more and more in the comics and whatnot. Like, okay, we don't have to be a Jedi to use a lightsaber, although, you know, we've seen Han use one, so it's not a big deal. But they're just making it like, okay, it's not a huge thing for a non-Jedi to use a lightsaber. Next thing is called Porgs! And there's not a whole lot going on here. It's just another reason to have Porgs and another piece of Star Wars content for the most part. We have these Porgs are tearing apart the ship, and that is because they're trying to use the blue wires to simulate this certain plant that they can't reach, which Chewbacca ends up having to climb and then put it in their little basket. So yeah, it's kind of a pointless episode, but I guess we can't all have that kind of story pushing content. But we're going to get into the next one here. It's called Art History, and this is really cool in the time. This deals with Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels and her brother Tristan. And this is in that weird period where Sabine left in season 3 and she came back a couple episodes later because she wanted to stay with her people in Mandalore. So we get into a little bit of what she was doing. So we get that little kind of adventure of what she was doing, which I really appreciated. They have this monument on Mandalore, Tar Vizsla, which we actually heard about from the show. And this is a very prestigious character in the Mandalore kind of movement, their people, their culture. And it's being defaced by the Imperial. So this whole little short was about Sabine kind of clearing off this outpost from the stormtroopers. So it's just another cool way to see Sabine Wren for sure. And the last one is called Chopper and Friends. And yes, we get Ewok action in this one. Another web series episode that is based on Endor. And we have Harrison Dula, we have Chopper, and the Ghost. And again, they are doing some mock-up with the Imperial forces after the Endor battle, and they're going around trying to kill TIE fighters, and they need people to man the turrets, and Chopper recruits the Ewoks, and they do a pretty darn good job destroying the TIE fighters. So, I mean, we recently got an Ewok as in Peepka, the character for Last Shot, that new Star Wars book that I have my review for on the channel. So it seems like Lucasfilm is pushing pretty heavy right now, the whole Ewok kind of movement, and I'm okay with that because I've been an Ewok fan since the moment I seen Return of the Jedi. You can fight me on that. I don't care. I love Ewoks. Alright, transitioning over to the comics. As I mentioned, we have 5 different comics. I'm going to first run through all the Marvel ones. So starting with my favorite comic, and with this issue, it's certainly staying my number 1. That is Darth Vader, issue number 16. This continues the Burning Seas arc, and this is part 4 of that arc. And I also did pick up this kick-ass variant cover, and we have Enfys Nest. They are doing these really cool covers that are called the Galactic Icons. And yeah, these things are really cool. They have various characters from various parts of Star Wars. And I just really love the design of Enfys Nest. Very dangerous looking, but very mysterious at the same time. I can't wait for Solo, guys. Just a couple more weeks. So anyway, getting into this. So if you guys aren't caught up on Darth Vader, in this arc we are on Mon Cala, the home planet of the Mon Calamari and the Quarren. They are having this tooth and nail battle between the Empire and the people of Mon Cala. And at this given moment in the timeline, we are, kind of right after Revenge of the Sith. So anyway, we have Darth Vader and his Inquisitors, plus their Inquisitor troopers, as they're kind of termed. They're trying to get to King Lee Char, who was actually in Clone Wars if you watched it. So that's pretty neat. So all in all, they're trying to conquer this planet. In this specific issue, you have Vader, who has found out where the Jedi are, because those Jedi were actually counseling the leadership of Mon Cala to, kind of push against the Empire. So basically, Vader is tasked with the mission to get these guys and exterminate them. As, the Purge didn't kill every single Jedi out there, so that's why he has his team of Inquisitors. So they're going there, and by the end of this issue, Vader gets called to get actually the King Lee Char instead of finishing off the Jedi. So he leaves his team of Inquisitors to remain to hunt down the Jedi. And by the end of this issue, the Jedi's name is Master Bar. And he's not really a master, because by the end of this, you learn he was just a Padawan when Order 66 came. And it leaves off on this awesome cliffhanger where apparently he knows about Order 66 because this guy, this Jedi Padawan, studied up on all his history. And he knows that what Palpatine was doing with the Order 66, and he knows all about the clones, and apparently those Inquisitor troops are actually clones that were activated after Order 66. So what does he do? He's held at gunpoint, and he says Order 66, and that's where the issue ends. So you can only guess of how the next issue is going to open up with just complete chaos. You got the 3 Inquisitors there. You got, they're about to get double crossed basically by the clones, but then Bar will as well. So we're going to see how that plays out. But I want to get into the specifics here because another solid issue by Charles Soule. So first off, this issue really struck like an emotional chord for characters that I have no attachment with, because this whole issue is centered around Vader hunting down this Bar character along with all his followers. So every time one of the followers was killed, it goes into this really cool flashback page, and it just shows like how these characters are connected to this Bar character. And it's worth noting that none of these people, at least they looked like to me, were Force sensitive. They were just all trying to follow the lead of the Jedi. They still believed in the Jedi, even though the Palpatine tarnished their image and made it look like they were the bad guys. There's still some believers in the Jedi there, and they were trying to get to the movement of Bar. So I thought that was really cool, is that you're seeing their little bit of a backstory, and you're seeing them brutally murdered at the same time. So it really did leave like a sort of evocative image in my mind. Also, moving on, there's a great connection to Rogue One in here. Not only do you have Admiral Akbar, but you also have Admiral Raddus. And we see this guy being that brilliant tactician that we knew for his reputation from Rogue One. So we have all his warships undocking, unmooring from the Mon Cala, whatever it is, the docks underwater. Very strange to try to say that. But anyway, they're trying to get out, and they're creating this huge bubble shield, and they're just smashing through the Imperial submarines, which look really cool, by the way. So, yeah, there's a lot of carnage, and it's thanks to Admiral Raddus, and this guy is super cool. I have even more respect for him thanks to this issue. Another thing I want to touch on is Grand Moff Tarkin and Vader's relationship. So you have Vader, who is dead set on taking out these Inquisitors, and it's by his mission from Palpatine. He does not want to stray from that, but at the last moment when he's about to take out this Jedi, he gets a private comm from Tarkin that says, look, I would really like to have a request for you to actually take out the king, because then I think it could end this conflict a lot sooner, and that's what Palpatine ultimately wants, is this conflict to get resolved more rapidly than it can be. So he actually takes him up on the offer. So that to me is like, okay, they're taking their first steps to becoming even greater allies than before. And if I'm looking in the timeline, I know there's a lot of stuff between Vader and Tarkin at this time. This might be like the first time they ever really come to an agreement. I'm not certain, but I really love the character of Tarkin, and I really just love their relationship that he always has with Vader. It's very complicated. There's an entire novel called Tarkin, which is basically just a relationship almost between Tarkin and Vader, so I definitely recommend that. Moving on to a revelation that, I mean, I should have been able to see it coming as somebody who just consumes this stuff on a weekly basis, but the 10th brother, the guy that has his badass looking like saber type, you know, the pirate kind of cutlasses. Cutlass is the word I'm looking for. He's got the saber cutlasses. He actually is a character from the Mace Windu miniseries. His name is Prosit Dib. So if there's anything awesome or noteworthy that came from the Mace Windu comics, I can now say it's this character that is now an Inquisitor. So great job on Charles Soule for pulling that kind of information from another piece of canon, especially considering that was way back during the Clone Wars, and we have this guy coming now. So a couple years removed. Last time we seen Prosit Dibs, he was basically going into trial, and he was just banished, basically, or exiled. Not exiled, but he was a prisoner of the Jedi. So you could see why he would want to be an Inquisitor, because he didn't believe in the ideals of the Jedi. They are being dogmatic, and here he is as an Inquisitor. So that is awesome. I love that kind of connection. It's one of the best things I've seen in canon in a long time. I can't wait to see more about what happens with Prosit Dibs. I hope he doesn't die. I hope he lives on for a while, because this guy's pretty cool. So yeah, that was Vader. Another awesome issue. I can't recommend this series enough. And another issue I want to talk about, brand new series this week, brand new mini-series of the adaptation of Star Wars The Last Jedi. This is issue number 1, so extra large issue, as most number 1 issues are. And this one picks up from the beginning of the movie, and it goes right to the point where Leia and the Resistance find out that the First Order is tracking them. So that's really all you need to know, because you've probably seen The Last Jedi by now, and if you haven't, then you probably want to skip the next couple minutes here, because I might spoil some things a little bit for you. So getting right into it, I think it was great that they left out the jokes with Poe in the beginning, where it's between him and General Huggs. That always kind of bothered me. That comedy just never really hit when he says paging General Huggs, and he starts saying your mom jokes. That was a little bit weird. I also really enjoyed the opening couple pages of this comic that relate to Luke, but because it goes into, he has narration bubbles, which is very nice, because we're getting to see the inside, what is Luke thinking about, and that whole time he's trying to, it explains how complicated it is for Luke to shut himself off from the Force. Like, it is such a monumental task that he has to always be aware of, to just shut the Force out, but there is something out there that is starting to spark it, and that is going to be Rey. So that was really cool. I also like seeing like more of an extended cut of when the First Order ships start coming in. You have Poe, who is still on the Raddus, along with Admiral Akbar and Leia, and they're kind of conversing. Oh, should we jump to hyperspace? No, we need to rescue people. She's saying, oh, I've done this before on Hoth with the I wish we had an ion cannon to blast some of these Star Destroyers out of our orbit. You know, that kind of thing. You know, Kennedy, Captain Kennedy, I think his name is. He's badass. He's a savage. He's basically calling Hux an idiot. So I love that, because if you read the visual dictionary, all the older First Order officers, they happen to have a lot of animosity, I guess, or, you know, anger against the younger officers of the First Order because they've survived the Galactic Empire and you know, the Galactic Civil War. They know more than these little kids, and he's showing his contempt against Hux, which is just excellent. I love the overall concise way that Gary Whitta just comprises the story, just moves it along so well. Such a great pace. And there's one moment where the artist, Michael Walsh, man, he hit a chord with me, a heartstring that I didn't expect to be pulled from a comic. There is this moment when Chewie and Rey first arrive at Luke's shelter, and Luke is saying, you know, where's Han? And you see Chewie just like reaching over and just hugging Luke from behind. And I was literally starting to feel a little something because, man, that is just so sad. And the only thing I will say about this is the artwork for me, the faces at least, just seemed a little bit off. They were a little bit muddy. It looked like everybody had a scar on their face. So I know the shadows were a little bit different, but yeah, I wasn't really a fan of that. But as for everything else, I think this was a very enjoyable issue number 1 for this miniseries. I'm looking forward to the next. I think there's 5 issues, a total of 6 issues that are going to be coming out. So looking forward to it. So moving on to the next comic, we have Thrawn. This is issue number 4. This is the adaptation of Timothy Zahn's novel, Thrawn. And this puts us in the boots of Thrawn, who is now a commander in the Imperial military. And he has his aide that follows him around, translates, and helps him integrate into political affairs within the Empire. His name is Ensign Eli Vanto. So they have this ship, this Akatan's cruiser, and they are doing their business going around the galaxy, and they have this one little request to go settle this dispute on this one planet that happens between these indigenous people, and you got these humans that are encroaching upon the land, and it's causing a little bit of disagreements going on. So they go check it out, because not everything in the Empire is having to deal with a war zone with the rebels. They do have these little parts where they're trying to maintain peace, like they say. They're trying to maintain peace across the galaxy. So they go there, and long story short, Thrawn finds out through his awesome detective work that these guys are trying to smuggle spice for this other thing, and it's all connected to Night Swan, who you might have heard from the last issue, I believe, and he is this other kind of brilliant person that is doing unrest against the Empire. So Thrawn basically settles this whole thing, and he gets promoted to a Commodore. He gets his Imperial Star Destroyer, the Chimera, which is that awesome ship that you see has that cool little Chimera design on it. And he gets his next mission, and his next mission he's not so agreeable to go along with. He's thinking in his mind he has a better way of doing things on this planet. There's this planet that's being under siege by these insurgents, and the Empire's held in there, and they're trying to get basically a force in to rescue the Imperials, from what I can actually piece together so far. And that is kind of where the story leaves off. You have Thrawn, who's saying, oh yeah, I'm going to be there, but what he's really doing is he's sending his military somewhere else, and he's going to actually see what the other general or whatever, the other admiral is going to do with this situation, because there is a little bit of strife, and nobody really likes Thrawn because he's an alien, and there's not a lot of high-ranking, there's not actually any high-ranking officers in the military. I haven't even seen any aliens, let alone an officer that is an alien in the Empire. So he's dealing with a lot of disgust, a lot of unfairness in the ranks. So he's got his own plans. So let's get into the specifics. I liked this issue because you have these nice little quiet conversations between Thrawn and Eli Vanto, and you could really tell that Thrawn is the teacher to Eli Vanto. Thrawn is teaching all his knowledge, pretty much his tactics, the way he thinks, to Eli, and he's picking up on things. And it's just awesome to see that kind of mentorship from Thrawn. And another thing I like is that mention of Thrawn, you know, looking at that one planet, looking at their artwork, and those people, the indigenous people, actually comment. They're like, you're the only one in the Empire that actually ever, like, acknowledges the art we have. So that to me is awesome, because we know Thrawn is just so obsessed with his tactics as they pertain to art. I liked seeing Thrawn go against the grain of the Empire. I really like seeing that he comes in with a different mindset than just these drone of people like go in and through the ranks just to get through the ranks. Like he has a mission, and he will complete that mission no matter what, even if he has to bend the rules a little bit. And usually he bends the rules and he gets in good graces with his superiors in the end anyway. And finally, the artwork is incredible. You got Luke Ross, who wrote, he did the art for Star Wars Darth Maul. This guy kills it, man. The artwork for Thrawn is just so menacing. It looks so great. You have that one sheet where it's basically just Thrawn with his Chimera. It looks beautiful. It's one of the coolest things I've seen in comics in a long time. Yeah, this artwork is just awesome. So yeah, I recommend Thrawn. I'm even on board more than I was before. This story is just a great story, and you really should experience it before the next novel comes out in July. So it's going to lead right into that. So it's a perfect time to get on board with this comic series. Okay, we're going to move on to the IDW comics. First off, we have the free comic book day edition of Star Wars Adventures. This might be kind of hard to find because, oh, it's got a cool back cover. I didn't even realize with Zuckuss on there. This is free comic book day, so you can't really buy it. So if you didn't get it, you're going to have to go on eBay, unfortunately, and buy it because you're going to need this story to continue on to the next issue that I'm going to be talking about, which is Star Wars Adventures number 10, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes. So let's just talk about this free comic book of the edition. This kind of ties into a little bit of Solo Star Wars story, not directly, but it is using the younger versions of Han Solo and Chewbacca. So, right off the bat, it's got that really great artwork. I really dug the way they actually drew Han because he does appear like he's more like Alden Ehrenreich, but he's still got a hint of Harrison Ford's likeness in there as well. So great job with the artwork. And the overall story for this one is we have Han. He basically double crosses Zuckuss and 4-LOM, who are these legendary bounty hunters that you've probably seen in the background in The Empire Strikes Back. And well, they actually get to do something in this. We actually hear both of them talk, which is pretty neat. They're working as a team. They're going to try to get a bounty for Han and Chewbacca and get whatever cargo they have to hopefully sell on the black market to make themselves some money. Well, it pretty much gets all turned around on them as Han becomes a prisoner to them. He finds out that, oh yeah, they have another prisoner, which is actually the mission that Han wanted the whole time, was to have him being prisoner so he can get on the inside of their ship, get the guy out that is prisoner, and bring him back to the guy's parents who are going to pay him. And, well, that goes pretty smooth until they're getting followed at the end, and they're in the Falcon, and you have, which is pretty neat, you have the Gand, who is Zuckuss, that's his species as Gand, and then you have 4-LOM chasing them in the Mist Hunter, and that's kind of where the issue leaves off. So let's just get right into it. As I mentioned, the artwork is awesome. I did like seeing Zuckuss and 4-LOM as a team. It is mentioned that Zuckuss could be Force sensitive. Now, I don't know if this is something that was in Legends, so please, if you guys have known anything about that, let me know in the comment section below because I'm highly interested in a Force sensitive bounty hunter. That could be really cool. He feels a disturbance in the Force, and that's when Chewbacca comes out of the barrels and beats the living crap out of him. So I don't know if he just was saying that, but then again, it's saying that like 4-LOM might actually kind of agree that he's maybe Force sensitive. But yeah, that is really cool, and like I said, the Mist Hunter is canon, so yes, if you're a fan of the Star Wars X-Wing miniature game, yeah, be excited. The Mist Hunter is canon now. Not that you really need to be excited for that anyway, but I sure as hell am. And finally, as I alluded to, this is the last thing for this week, guys. Finally, we have Star Wars Adventures. This is issue number 10, so this one actually came out this week, and we have that tale again for the Han Solo kind of thing with Zuckuss and 4-LOM. It's actually called Powered Down Part 1. So what happens is they're Millennium Falcon, they try to lose Zuckuss and 4-LOM, they go to this nearby planet, it's uncharted, they find out that it somehow shuts their power down, they crash into this body of water and they're forced to kind of go on foot away from Zuckuss and 4-LOM. What they later do notice is there's a transmitter on this planet which shuts down all electronics, and that's why they crash, and 4-LOM's not functioning either because he's a droid, so everything that's electronics completely worthless. So as they figure this out, by the end you have Zuckuss, who is still trying to kill Han and Chewie, and by the end of this they have Chewie shut down this tower, and then you have these beetle creatures coming out of the ground, these mechanical creatures, and they're trying to basically take over the galaxy. So yeah, it is very much almost along the lines of the Last Shot novel, which has a big droid presence of a threat in it. Not going to spoil it. So yeah, it kind of does match that tone a little bit, but yeah, definitely an interesting story in that regard. I thought it was kind of weird because at one point, Han was trying to free Zuckuss, and he's like, well, I don't usually do this, but you might die, so I'm going to try to free you. I thought that was a little weird. It's like, the guy was just trying to kill you in a ship like 2 minutes ago. You're going to try to save his life now? Yeah, and then Zuckuss tries to fake it, and he tries to kill him anyway, so it was like, okay, Han's like, I'm never going to trust anybody again. Probably not, but anyway, so that was interesting. I thought it was funny because in the beginning of the comic, you do have Thrawn and Zuckuss, and they're both completely different sides of the coin. As I mentioned in the previous issue, Zuckuss could be a Force sensitive. He's very spiritual, and you have Thrawn, who is a droid, so he's very logical. He's saying the odds to Han all the time, and Han's like, never tell me the odds. Bad impression. I don't know what the heck that was, but anyway, yeah, I like that relationship between those two guys. And another cool fun fact is, as Morgan is actually mentioned, that's the pink blob guy from Star Wars Rebels. You love him or you hate him, and that's pretty much it. And that wasn't the only story we had in issue number 10. We actually had Family Affair Part 1. This is dealing with Lando Calrissian after the events of what could be the Return of the Jedi. I'm pretty sure he has given up on being a smuggler and all that. He is trying to become a businessman. So again, this kind of goes into Last Shot, because that's what we know about Lando coming up with his own company with droids in that novel. So yeah, we have him, and he's basically on Cloud City just hanging out. He's approached by one of his former lovers, it's pretty much a reference to, and she's having a problem with her son, who's trying to be like a scoundrel or crime boss, pretty much like what almost like Lando was in his life. So she's basically telling Lando to go meet her son and just talk some sense into him and just say, hey, look, this is not the life you want to lead. It's very dangerous. And, you know, by the end of this issue, it's kind of left with a cliffhanger, and they're just kind of, Lando's like just trying to tell the kid, like, look, this is what happens. You got this criminal guy that's after both of us now. Thanks a lot. So getting into the things that I thought were pretty interesting is just one character. His name is Askro, and I think he's from The Last Jedi on the planet of Cantonica, which is where Canto Bight is. He's like that really big horse-looking creature. Pretty sure I haven't seen anything else like that species-wise in Star Wars, so it's probably the same guy. Just a little connection there. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting seeing Lando actually talking to somebody that is younger than him, that's trying to follow in his footsteps a little bit, but not really. So yeah, interesting stuff there. So next week, you guys can look forward to The Last Jedi adaptation number 2, as well as Poe Dameron issue number 27. So there was a load of stuff that came out over the last week. Let's talk about it in the comment section below. What did you think of the Forces of Destiny episodes? They're actually having a different writer on board for those episodes. She wrote a lot of Rebels episodes, so did you like them better than the ones that came out before? Let's talk about it. What about all the comics? What did you think about the IDW Star Wars comics with Han Solo and Chewie and the Bounty Hunters? I thought they were really fun. I really enjoyed them a lot. And how about Darth Vader? How about those connections to Mace Windu and Order number 66? And how about like Thrawn, and you got the Last Jedi adaptation, which is seeming awesome. Let's talk about it all in that comment section below. Guys, if you are new to the channel, welcome. I have plenty of other Star Wars content that I upload on a weekly basis. I just uploaded today, actually, as of recording this video, my interview with New York Times best-selling author Jason Fry. He was at my local library here in New Jersey, and I had to, reach out to him and ask for if he can spend a couple minutes talking with me about how it came to be with the Last Jedi novelization. So yeah, I asked him a bunch of questions about the novelization, about working with Lucasfilm Story Group, about his origins with writing Star Wars, all this really cool stuff. It was a fantastic interview, so please make sure you go over there and check that out. And as always, please like, share, and do subscribe to this channel so that way you'll never miss another video. My name is Starrapter, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.